All right, today we are jumping into an absolutely epic story that spans 3,000 years, all to understand a civilization that literally built the foundations of our world. We're going to be diving into the incredible history of the Greeks, and we'll be using Roderick Beaton's fantastic book, The Greeks, A Global History, as our guide. But first, let me ask you something. Have you ever stopped to think about what connects our modern governments, the way we approach life's biggest questions, and even the Olympics? Well, the answer, of course, is the Greeks. They didn't just build amazing temples, They basically created a blueprint for civilization itself, a new way to govern, a new way to think, a new way to tell stories, and a whole new ideal for art and beauty. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Okay, so to really get a handle on the Greeks, you've got to go way, way back. Back to a time when the very idea of what it meant to be Greek was just starting to bubble up from the ashes of even older civilizations.
Now, what's really wild is that this whole story starts with a collapse. You had these early advanced societies, the Minoans and Mycenaeans, but around 1100 BCE, their world just falls apart, plunging the whole region into what we call a dark age. But here's the twist. It was out of that very darkness that a brand new, uniquely Greek identity started to take shape, eventually leading to the rise of the city-state.
And that brings us to this key idea, the polis. The polis, or city-state, was the absolute heart of the Greek world. It wasn't just a place on a map, it was your identity. Being from Athens, or Sparta, or Corinth, that defined who you were. And because they were also fiercely independent and competitive, these little city-states basically became supercharged laboratories for innovation. So, this next period was just a total cultural explosion. Writing makes a comeback. Lawgivers start to establish actual written rules, which was a huge step toward a more just society. Poets like Homer gave all Greeks a shared history, a common set of heroes and values. And you can see this new confidence just bursting through in their art. All of this was setting the stage for what came next.
And all of that groundwork? It leads us straight into the era you've definitely heard of, the classical Golden Age. We're talking about the 5th and 4th centuries BCE, when Greek culture, especially in Athens, hit a peak that still just blows your mind today.
So, right at the heart of it all was this totally radical idea, democracy. For the very first time, citizens, and that word citizen is key here, got to have a direct say in how their city was run. It was a complete game changer. But, and this is a huge but, we have to remember who was left out. If you were a woman, a slave, or a foreigner, this amazing new system wasn't for you.
It's in this new open Athens that you get figures like Socrates. This guy was a real disruptor. He basically laid the foundation for all of Western philosophy by walking around and questioning everything and everyone. He changed the whole game from being about the cosmos to being about us, about the human condition.
And his legacy? It was picked up by his star student, Plato. Plato took that Socratic method of relentless questioning and aimed it at the biggest concepts you can imagine: justice, reality, and what a perfect society might look like.
And you can just see the torch being passed here. Plato's own student Aristotle came next and tried to categorize, well, everything. Logic, science, biology, ethics, politics, the whole shebang. This incredible trio created a philosophical dynasty whose questions we are still wrestling with today.
But look, this era wasn't just a bunch of guys sitting around thinking deep thoughts. It was an age of absolutely breathtaking art. The Parthenon is the perfect example. It's like they took that same philosophical drive for perfection and poured it into stone. It's a masterpiece of math, art, and civic pride all rolled into one.
Now, of course, the golden age of the independent city-states couldn't last forever. Their political power started to fade. But here's the twist. As their power declined, their ideas started an even bigger journey, conquering the world not with armies, but with culture.
So, who kept the flame alive? Well, first you had the huge kingdoms that popped up after Alexander the Great, spreading Greek culture all across the East. Then you have the Roman Empire. The Romans were huge fans, and they adopted Greek art, philosophy, and language and took it all over the West. And after them, the Greek-speaking Byzantine Empire kept that legacy going for another 1,000 years.
And what you're seeing here is this massive shift in scale. Greek culture went from being this intensely local thing, born from the rivalry of these tiny city-states, to becoming the cultural software, the operating system for massive multicultural empires. It wasn't just for Greeks anymore. It was for everybody.
So, okay, after 3,000 years, why does any of this still matter to us? Well, because these ancient ideas
are woven into the very fabric of our lives, often in ways we don't even notice. Think about it. Every time you see a debate in a public square, or even argue with people on social media, you're looking at a modern version of the Greek agora, that central hub where business, politics, and ideas all collided. And that core idea that you should have a say in how you're governed, that we vote for our leaders, that's a direct line back to that wild, risky, and brilliant experiment that started in Athens 2,500 years ago. And maybe most importantly, those big questions we all wrestle with. What is a good life? What is justice? What is truth? Those are the exact questions they were the first to really dig into. They didn't just give us answers, they taught us how to ask better questions.
So in the end, what the Greeks left us wasn't just marble ruins and old stories. They gave us a kind of blueprint for how to build a society full of incredible ideas, but also some serious warnings. The real question for us, right now, is what? What are we going to build with it?